Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 366 Days of Hope. My name is Pearl, and I'm here to share our next topic, which is three things I wish I knew before I got married. The first one is that I wish I knew that unresolved trauma can creep into your marriages. So basically, if you have things that are in your past that you haven't dealt with, they are going to full blown manifest themselves in your marriage in ways that you may not even realize, nor you expected, nor did you want. And you have to address it. And this is where the healing process comes in, and obviously why it's so important to choose the right person in your life to help you go through a lot of those things. And sometimes we don't even think about dealing with those things because when we're in the dating relationship, we have probably only seen a surface level of those triggers, a surface level of those trauma related issues, and maybe we didn't see the full blown, manifestation because maybe they were in closed doors. And so now, because you're in a constant, immediate, you know, in face-to-face encounter with the person daily, then you're going to have to address it. So that's one of the big things that I think doesn't get, really told to us. And that's something that I definitely had to learn the hard way. I would say the second thing I wish I was told was how beautiful marriage was, because growing up I had such a negative perspective about marriage that I kind of was both afraid but also had it in the back of my mind, even though I made a commitment from the very beginning. And I know I've told that to people, that this was probably the best decision we and my husband have ever made, was that we made the D word, divorce, a bad word, as it was equivalent to the MF word, which I'm clearly not going to say. You all know what I'm talking about. It was just as much of a curse word, so that's why I never ever used that D word. But in the back of my mind, I had a perspective that everybody leaves, that there was this idea in my head that marriages don't last, and that it's not always great, and that maybe, like, I was going to have failure in my marriage. But after talking to my husband about my insecurities and him helping me heal through those things, like, I've realized how beautiful marriage is, and why I think that God always related his relationship with us to marriage, because it is beautiful, because it is so intimate, it is interconnected. And I believe that this was a way of him trying to explain what real love is, because loving someone unconditionally is an absolute gift. It's a beautiful thing to see everybody's flaws and still love them, even when they're at their worst. And I'm not talking about people who purposely abuse your kindness. And there'll be times where that happens, but there is always like boundaries that we need to set. And we're not talking about, like I said, when I discuss these things, I'm talking about the altruistic aspect of people who really want to see the best, but maybe they just don't know how because they've been reared incorrectly, but they want to change. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that the person really wants to make a difference in their future and in their relationship, and that's what makes it work. But if you're just constantly unwilling to recognize like how you play a part in your relationship, then clearly you need to do a lot of growing. And also, I don't know if there's a lot of anything anyone can do other than maybe a person seeing a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a professional, to be able to help them maybe see where they are doing things wrong, or to have the world tell them sometimes, because the world can be cutthroat, and sometimes that kind of attitude can help save some people who have always been given, a tender hand, and they've never been given a raw hand to just like, hey, we're just gonna be upfront of like, this is how life is. And I think that sometimes tough love is important to give to some people who are extremely prideful, and to help humble them. So I would say that's probably the second one, was just learning that marriage is actually a beautiful thing, because I had such a negative view from many of the people around me, and realizing that it's not actually that way. It can actually be something really beautiful. The third thing I wish I knew was really understanding what men's mindsets were compared to women's mindsets. And I know right now we're kind of dealing with a lot of identity wars, which I'm not even getting into, but I have to say that there definitely are differences between the way a man thinks and feels compared to how a woman thinks and feels. And there are things that I think each woman, depending on how she's raised, will interpret certain things differently than the way a man will. But generally, they are still very, very different. There are things that I think, hands down, for us women, that we experience that men can't and will never experience, and vice versa. And I think that I wish I understood a little bit more on why respect was so important to a man, and how I could have been better at not minimizing that respect because of the way I was brought up. And because I grew up where there was a lot of disrespect to men, where I think that we saw men as being stupid and women being smarter. And I often saw women look at men as not their equal. And therefore, I feel that had I had a better view of my husband early on, I wouldn't have put him through so much distress. That's the best way I'm going to say it. In our relationship. And I think I would have been a much better wife, and I could have prevented a lot of the headaches in my relationship. So those are three things, honestly, like I wish I knew a lot better. But now, just having read a lot of the different books out there, Love and Respect, Boundaries, Love Languages, although I have mixed reviews on that one personally, because I felt like it was a bit too general. So anyways, I won't get into that, but I would say, yeah, I kind of wish I just learned more. And also, I just listened to a lot of podcasters and listened to a lot of men, basically, and just kind of heard them out and heard their perspective on things and marriage. And so it gave me a wider perspective on how men feel, and just being able to corroborate that with my husband was a blessing, and just to really understand where he's coming from. So I hope that that encourages you in, marriage, and to see that marriage is something that's beautiful, and also to see that there are things that you may end up learning that will be probably different than me, depending on where you come from. But I would say, hands down, the number one I pointed to, which is all unresolved traumas will manifest themselves in your marriages. That one definitely hit me real hard. And I know a lot of my girlfriends who have had similar situations definitely would agree with me on this. But would love to hear you guys' point. And with that said, guys, may you live, thrive, and be healthy. And may you have healthy relationships. Take care. Bye.